So today on Contractor Cast, we're talking social media marketing for home service contractors. Specifically, we're going to be getting into how to set goals, what mistakes to avoid. We're going to be talking a little bit about best practices, as well as some of the tools that we use as an agency to help our clients succeed, and a lot more. Stay tuned. So today we're going to be joined by Bijan, one of our in-house social media experts. He's going to help us pull back the curtain a little bit and discuss social media marketing tactics for home service contractors. As always, please feel free to jump in the comments below to let us know how you're using social media for your home service business. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Let's jump in. So today we've got Bijan on the program. He is our in-house social media specialist. So we want to go ahead and welcome Bijan to the show. How's it going, Bijan?
Hey, Wayne. I'm doing pretty good. I've spent the last 2 years as the social media guy. I'm kind of sort of moving out of that role a little bit, but I can't get the experience out of my head and the knowledge. So that's what's on the table today.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and a lot of our clients, obviously, as you know very well, use social media. Some use it very well, some not so well. A lot of them, we do their social media for them. So today I kind of just wanted to discuss, some of our best practices when it comes to social media, some of the things that we see, in the landscape when it comes to social media as it pertains to obviously home service contractors, and just have an overall discussion about it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I'm looking forward to it, man.
A lot of people come to social media and they think, just getting on Facebook or getting on Instagram, that's doing social media. We're looking at it from a social media marketing perspective. Mm-hmm. What's your definition, or what do you, when you think social media marketing, you explain that to someone, what's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a very, very broad topic, and I'll try to boil it down a bit. So the very first thing to consider is that your social media marketing efforts, sort of your presence there, that's your brand. That's the first thing potential customers on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, LinkedIn, that's what they see. That's their first impression of your company, right? That is social media marketing to a lot of people. And that's a great sort of foundation level idea that I think a lot of companies don't think about when they're thinking, we need to get into social media marketing. We need to start getting leads on Facebook. When at the very most basic level, it's another facet of your brand, just at the end of the day. And sort of the next layer of that is it's a means of gaining trust and building a reputation with those people, whether they're your followers or future followers, whether they're customers or potential customers. This is your impression to the world on that platform. Everyone there is your audience, and you have to really speak to them and no one else. Social media is supremely unique in the way you have to talk to both customers and non-customers, because not everyone on social media, unlike, for example, your Google ads or something along the lines of AdWords, what have you, those you are selling. Whereas on social media, you're not selling your products, you're selling your personality, like what your company is. So that's basically social media marketing. Then, of course, there's the whole other side, which is the paid ads side of social media marketing. But that is kind of a different beast. I like to put it to our clients. I like to separate the ads part of social media from the more natural, organic, non-paid part of social media, because you have to approach them differently.
So, I mean, that brings up a great point. Like you said, I think a lot of people sort of sometimes confuse the two, and again, social media being a social aspect, it's not necessarily where you're putting in money to something and getting an immediate return on that investment. It's really, I always equate it to kind of, you probably heard this too, like when you go to a party, you're not necessarily talking about yourself and your business, at a Christmas party, you're just conversating.
Yep.
And that's sort of the beauty about social media, is that if you just go on there and you conversate with your potential customers and just have a general social presence, that's going to be a lot more rewarding than if you don't at all, obviously, as you mentioned. But again, very different from, running an ad on Google AdWords or even a paid ad on Facebook.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can't approach them the same way. It's one is a conversation, one is a sales model, basically.
So in your experience, what platforms, there's a lot of different ones out there, Instagram, Facebook, et cetera. What sort of, which platforms do you sort of recommend, especially for our client base, the home service industry, what they should potentially focus on the most?
Yeah, so we pretty much always start with Facebook, and we branch out from there depending on the nature of a given client, who they're trying to reach. We start with Facebook because it's the biggest platform. It probably still will be for the next maybe 5 years or so. I can't say 10 years, but at least for the next few years, it's sticking around. Facebook's not going anywhere. It's a great place to have a presence because a lot of people will look for you on Facebook first. Even before they want to find your website, they want to find what people are saying about you, right? In a very sort of natural conversational space. The next place we usually look is, especially with commercial clients, as you said, in our space, home services, a lot of our clients do primarily business to business work. And for them, Facebook is not the right place. It's a good place for them to have a presence, but we try to turn them toward LinkedIn because obviously that's a very professional-centric network, and it allows for a lot more in the way of company-focused features, ads, hiring posts, things of that nature that just tend to be more geared toward commercial businesses, industrial clients. So LinkedIn is kind of the first way we branch people. And then another direction that a lot of our clients are going in these days is Instagram. And Instagram, a lot of people look at and think, wow, this is the hot new platform. We got to be on there. But they usually find within a few weeks, I'm not getting any traction. Why is no one following me? Because you must have beautiful pictures. They don't have to be beautiful, but they have to be well-taken shots. You have to really nurture that community a lot more than, say, Facebook, for example, because you only have the medium of imagery. Links don't work. You have to get by just on hashtags, a simple caption generally, and preferably, if people are having conversations, being able to respond to them. Yeah, go ahead.
No, and that just made me think a little bit because, I always, when talking with clients, have always just sort of try to gear them towards perhaps their favorite, right? If someone is really good or familiar with Facebook, and we're not doing it for them, this is obviously speaking to a lot of people out there who may be doing this on their own, but, I would say focus on the platform that you are most comfortable with and really hone that skill, really get super good at Facebook. And from there, branch out to do other platforms, Instagram, TikTok or whatever, there's all kinds of ways to be social on the various platforms and to really kill it on those platforms. But you've got to be able to dedicate time and effort to those. And I feel like a lot of people try to be on everything and then they fail to be on anything really. They just don't ever, like you just mentioned, they don't get the engagement that they're looking for. And I think that's because they tend to spread themselves a little too thin, especially with, the client base that we have. They typically don't have someone in office who is strictly dedicated to, doing social media for them. So it becomes something that goes on someone else's plate. And, if that person is really good at Instagram, then they should really, go after Instagram in a killer way. What are your thoughts about that?
So you're absolutely right. And that's the sort of thing that we do try to sort of suss out of clients in our introductory calls with them. We try to get an idea, like, what experience do you have with social media? Sort of what are your expectations? And generally, if they've been using it, we have a landscaping guy who has been pretty successful on Pinterest, and he has a decently built out Pinterest even before he came to us. And when he did come to us, he talked to us about how excited he was about it and how we could help him with that. So you always want to build on top of any successes that are already there. That's kind of the key of what you're saying, basically. If they're already familiar with the platform, if they know how to use it, it's going to be so much easier for us to help them and for them to help themselves, basically. That'll just compound growth effectively. another sort of point, because we were talking sort of what social platforms, I mentioned Pinterest. And to kind of just extrapolate on that a tiny bit, Pinterest is sort of like a hyper-focused version of Instagram, where in Instagram, pretty much the most important thing is what picture you post. On Pinterest, the only thing is the picture. You don't actually really have a choice in the text. There are times, there are sort of certain functionalities within Pinterest that do allow you to do that. Certain ad formats allow you to do that. But with organic posting on Pinterest, there's just the image. And that works really well for some people. Like I said, if you take a lot of great pictures, it's the platform for you. But for everyone else, it's just a detriment.
Yeah. And I mean, back to your other point too, as well, is like, or a point that I've made in the past is that people a lot of times, themselves may not be a big Pinterest person. They themselves may not be on Facebook very often. And I think they sort of confuse the fact that, their customers are. And if you're not on there, your competition is, right? So the importance of social media can't really be, stressed enough, in my opinion anyway, is that, you want to be social. You want to be on Facebook if you can. You want to be on all of them if you can. But again, if you're really good at Facebook, you should dominate Facebook better than your competition because they are on Facebook. One of the things I always look at people, or when I talk with clients, is you mentioned when someone came to us and they already had a laid out Pinterest account. I like to look at people's competitors on Facebook. How are they doing? What are they doing differently or at all that you're maybe not doing to sort of in that particular region? What's working? What kind of feedback? What kind of engagement are they getting to kind of give me a direction for this particular client based on what their competition's out there doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We like to look at the competition as well, but that it's kind of a fine line because you want to know whether or not their competition is on there, what sort of things they're posting, but you don't want to do the same thing, right? The point of social media is to send your message to your people, right? If you're trying to reach the exact same people with the exact same message, you can't because they're already doing that.
So in that same vein, how important is it for clients to listen and communicate clearly when it comes to social media?
I mean, you said it yourself just a little bit ago. Social media is a conversational medium, so it is of the utmost importance. If you're only on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, any social media platform, only to send your messages, to put a one directional form of communication, then you're doing it wrong, unfortunately. You need to be prepared, even if you don't have someone dedicated to looking at your feed and looking at your messages in the office. You got to have someone checking in there at least every once in a while, because people will send you messages on your page. If you have them set up, will schedule an appointment on your page, and you will get reviews on Facebook, whether you like it or not. And you need to be prepared and willing. That's the most important part, to respond to those reviews. If they're positive, then to respond positively. So more people want to review you. Yeah, exactly. But if they're negative, you also have to be there for that person. Just the same way that if an unsatisfied customer called up your office and said, they did a horrible job, I want my money back, you need to be able to respond to these people on social media the same way, with sort of a level-headed moderation in mind, where you want to help them. They are your customer at the end of the day. So communication is absolutely key. I mean, as in most other things, it's just pretty easily forgotten in social media, I find, despite the name.
Well, I mean, and I think just listening to what your like you just mentioned, listening to what your customers are saying just gives you a better indication as to, what your clients or what your potential customers' preferences are, their fears, their challenges, and it helps you build that loyal customer base if you can listen and respond in a way that's giving value to them. Not necessarily, as you mentioned earlier on in the conversation, it's not just about selling someone. I think a lot of times, especially our clients, they get confused with, using social media as a way to sell someone something. And it's really, we can't really stress enough how much it's more about just engaging with them, listening to them, and sort of being that voice when it comes to, people have questions about HVAC related issues, answering them, being there to give them that information on on a willing basis, that over time builds a loyal customer base because they know that they can come to you for answers. That builds trust, that builds authority, all those things.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's about the closest you can get to talking to your clients on the phone. It is your most direct line of communication without directly talking to them. And we can't stress that enough. And we wish we saw more people kind of leveraging that aspect. But it's something that you have to really kind of ingratiate yourself in and learn to do more often. So it just becomes kind of a part of your routine.
So speaking of leveraging that that aspect, what are some ways that contractors can leverage social media in terms of the goals that they are setting for themselves? Am I posting content for likes, engagement, or for website traffic? What are some things that you see in your dealings with social media that kind of work best that way when it comes to content?
So kind of to rewind to the beginning of that question, having goals is the best first step, because a lot of people come both to us and to other agencies and also just start out their social media strategy without any goals. They just think, I need to be here. This is where my competition is. I'm just going to post some stuff. And that's all well and good, but just as in everything else in life, business, hobbies, or otherwise, having a goal will make your efforts so much more successful and meaningful. And now kind of coming back to the actual goals bit, definitely having a very distinct, I want more followers because, or I want more clicks because. And if the because is leads, that's fine. But when it comes to posting, having leads as your sort of primary mindset, you might be disappointed, because that's definitely more on sort of the other side, on the ads side.
Right.
If you want leads, that's going to be so much more cost effective, even though posting doesn't cost you anything. But if you do want leads, you can absolutely have a posting strategy that prioritizes that. If you want more community engagement or community involvement in the movements, or if you support a charity or a run in your community, Facebook, Twitter, these are great platforms to talk about those and to sort of ultimately build up that community. Whereas if you come right out of the gate and just start off by thinking, I absolutely need 1,000 likes and I'm going to get it by asking for likes in every post.
Right.
This is a little known fact. If you ask for a like or ask for a share in a post, Facebook will sort of de-rank that post, because Facebook, for example, sees it as sort of cutting down on actual conversation. If you're just asking for a share or asking for a comment, Facebook hates that because they want real sort of organic comments and conversations to spring up.
Sure.
Yeah. So I kind of got on a little tangent there, but it all comes back to whatever goal you've set for yourself. The rest of your efforts should be aligned in that direction.
So speaking of goals, I think one of the largest things that people come to us with, and I think we may have slightly touched on this at the beginning, was awareness versus selling, right? So your brand awareness and really sort of building your brand. I don't know if you could speak a little bit about that versus selling for folks, especially in the home services industry.
Absolutely. So this is pretty much the most distinct difference you can paint between the organic side of Facebook, which is your posting, setting up events, community involvement, sprucing up your page, and the other side of Facebook, which is paid ads, boosting posts, sponsored posts, things of that nature. Brand awareness can be accomplished through both, just as selling can be accomplished through both, but brand awareness is best done with organic posting, with cultivation, right? You can't grow a garden in a day. You can't grow an audience in a week. I've never seen that happen like realistically without
Right.
bot accounts. And then on the opposite side, the best way to make money in a lot of cases is to spend money. And in this case, on Facebook ads. Facebook has legitimately the largest audience of any social media platform or any platform in the world, and they want to be paid for it. So if you want to get your leads up, that is the absolute most efficient way to do it. And it also saves you from sort of making some pretty easy mistakes to make on the organic side. So what I end up seeing a lot is our clients and just competitors, but this isn't unique to the service industry. People using their Facebook timeline as a deal board or as a place to just plop down services and sort of need-based things. But something I like to tell people is that nobody searches broken AC into Facebook's search bar. They put that into Google, right? However, if you're running an ad that's a special on an AC repair or an electrical panel repair, and someone happens to see that and they need that, which if you've targeted your ad right, the right people should be seeing it, then they're either going to click it or they're going to remember you. And that's kind of another huge part of brand awareness, is having that brand be top of mind, having people remember you. And just making one ad isn't going to have people remember you. But if you're constantly giving them value for free on your Facebook page or on your sort of Twitter postings, you have done so much more for them. And they will come back to you over and over again. And at some point, they'll probably call you up.
And I think that's one of the hardest things for people to sort of understand sometimes. It's just that, that's how is like when you call on that friend, you're like, oh yeah, I know a guy that can help me out with X, Y, and Z, but you don't necessarily need that person until the AC is broken or until, the electrical panel is done. So as a home service contractor who's sort of doing this on their own, and trying to, put out the best content possible, what are your ideas or thoughts on coming up with a social calendar? How valuable can that be to someone in this industry?
So a social calendar is extremely important, both from a logistical standpoint and from a just general success standpoint. So on the logistical side of things, you're able to maintain a consistent and frequent posting schedule without having to put too much effort into it, because you've got the posting schedule right in front of you. And that makes things so much easier. You can do sort of bulk edits that way. You can make sort of granular changes, and you can plan for the future, which is incredibly important. You might otherwise forget to talk about perhaps just a salient holiday for your local area that you guys don't get super involved with, but you want people to know that you care about. You put it on your calendar, you won't forget about it. Whereas if you're relying on on-demand posting, then you may end up forgetting. That's not to say on-demand posting, which is just to mean, you have an idea, you post about it. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there is, but having a healthy mix of both planned posts and sort of spur of the moment, hey, this team member's birthday was today. We had this awesome celebration. Let's make a post about it. You didn't have that on the calendar, but it's post-worthy. Why not? And coming to the success side of things, you are able to, again, align yourself with the goals you've set by looking at your calendar, looking at all the posts that you've set for the next month, 2 weeks, however long you want to schedule in advance, and say, do all of these posts align with my goals? And will they actually help me succeed on them? If you're just making a post for the sake of making a post, this is such a big problem I see, then you need to rethink that post or simply not make a post. The post should provide value to someone at the end of the day.
Right.
That should be your primary objective. But yeah, love social media calendars. We've always used them. We always schedule 1 month in advance. I would recommend everyone else do the same.
Well, and I think it also just helps people be consistent. I think one of the things that you see with social media is that, you may open up your Facebook account and go gangbusters the first, month or two, and then it just becomes this, secondary thought, and it's something you just get to every once in a while. I think that calendar could really help people, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, just help them be a lot more consistent with what they put based on what you just said, and just being on that schedule.
Yeah. The schedule is, and some people don't like this, but the schedule should sort of take precedence, right? If you've got that post scheduled for today, and you're thinking, I don't really know, should we really post this today? Unless it's a particularly racy post, you should probably post it. It's again, as long as it provides value to someone, it's better to have something posted than to not. But you have to make that consideration for sure.
What are some of your tools? I mean, I know you're using things in the office here with our clients. What are some things that the folks out there could be using to maybe help them with this calendar scheduling and getting on that right track?
Yeah, there are so many tools for this that could be its own interview. Let me tell you. But we use a pair of tools here that it would be unnecessary for anyone outside of an agency environment to use. They are Social Pilot and Hootsuite. If you're just a company or someone within a company who wants to get your social pages started, you only need to use one of those. We use two because we have a significant number of clients, and we have to, as I said before, we have to post to different profiles differently. Hootsuite allows us to reach Instagram directly. We can post directly to Instagram there, whereas Social Pilot allows us to manage a number of a very large number of calendars in a pretty organized interface. But I've used dozens of tools. I've tried dozens in the past, sort of trying to find, which ones end up eking out better than the others. We found that Social Pilot is a fantastic platform. It does just about everything we need it to. Hootsuite, however, has like a pretty robust free option. I believe Social Pilot does as well. I would look into those two, but ultimately you want to find a tool that does everything you need it to. If you need to be on Instagram, you get a tool that you can post to Instagram with as little friction as possible. Because as soon as you hit a roadblock or something comes up, an issue or an error or glitch, whatever, you're going to want to stop using it, because this is a facet of your business that's not like pouring money into it. So you're thinking, well, I mean, what's the point? This is more work than it's worth. You need a tool that will get out of your way. I think that can be said for pretty much everyone in the marketing sphere.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, that applies to so many things. I mean, we have so many tools in-house. Social media aside, we have so many tools that we use. Oh, yeah. Some of them we use really well, and we use them to their full capabilities. Others, we didn't realize that we still had that tool on our list. So I definitely know that, you definitely need to get in there and use them as best you can.
Oh yeah.
I guess some of the things that I saw for something we could maybe share with the folks out there is that, there are some tools that are free. As you mentioned, Social Pilot is it Social Pilot?
Yeah.
Okay. Social Pilot has a free option on it, a freemium option is what we call it. But there's also buffers out there. I think you guys have used Buffer in the past before.
In the past, yeah.
Canva, to some degree, some people may be familiar with, it allows them to sort of, do some of those artistic things that they wouldn't necessarily be able to do on their own. But yeah, there's, like you said, there's just so many different tools out there. I think if you go out there and you search, and like you said, if you're looking for tools to dominate a specific niche, that you'll find exactly what you're looking for.
Absolutely. And it pays to be up to date on those tools, because I just realized we've been using Social Pilot for something like a year and a half now. I think they've removed their free option. So so definitely make sure that whatever platform you're looking into has a free option. Hootsuite, I'm relatively certain, has a free option, but pretty much every single management platform has a free trial. If it doesn't, then they're losing so much money. But at the very least, you can try multiple out, see which one works best for you.
That brings me to another thought as well. So, like, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see out there happening on it? I know we were looking at a lot of different clients' accounts, what they're doing, what they're not doing so well. What are some of the things you're seeing that, I wouldn't say that you can't believe are happening, but that you would highly, suggest they not do, or things that you definitely see that they could be doing better?
Yeah, I don't know if I would disbelieve anything at this point that I would hear about people on their Facebook page. But in terms of sort of the most common stuff I see people doing, businesses doing on their Facebook page or Instagram page that they ought not to do, definitely the foremost of these is making a page and doing nothing with it. If you have a presence, that's good. I'm not saying that's bad, but If you don't plan to update the page ever, then you might consider finding whatever your social media platform is and just focusing all your energy there and posting to it. Because, like you said, it's good to be present on every platform, having an account, having a company page. But if you don't post to it, if you have no updates there, if you have outdated information, God forbid you have outdated information on your page, you will get reamed by potential customers if your hours are wrong or if your address is old. That's definitely the most common thing I've seen that I would highly recommend. Make 1 or 2 posts, even if it's every month, every 2 months. Just post an update.
So yeah, I mean, I think it also brings up a good point that, if you're inactive on those platforms as well, or have those inactive pages, that people take that information and they are making a judgment based on the lack of information that's there, right? So they are determining that you're not in business, or that you're not as forthcoming with information if you're just not present. And they're on Facebook, so they're going to go to the next competitor on there and find their information more up to date and give them more authority just based on the information that they're putting out there.
Yeah. I have seen a number of pages. This is another sort of fun fact with incorrect information, because this is a little sinister, and I can't prove it, of course, but it is possible to make suggested changes to page details, hours, for example, or your address. And sometimes if you've got a page that you never update, you never look at, it's possible, I'm not saying people do it, but it's possible that your competitor can go in there and suggest a change. And if you don't dispute that change, Facebook will force it, because they think, oh, this is a customer who knows that you're only open from 8 to 5 on weekdays, when in reality, you're open from 8 to 8. And you're losing out on 3 hours of business as far as Facebook is concerned. And again, I don't think it's generally competition who's doing that. It's usually customers who are either misinformed, or perhaps that actual information is just not obvious enough, or it's not in enough places. Yeah. But yeah, it's so important to at least check the page every once in a while for reviews, any comments, sort of thing.
Well, Bijan, I really appreciate you coming on the program today and discussing your thoughts and tricks and tips for social media as it pertains to our home service contractors out there. Thanks again for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Hope people can get some value out of this.
And we'll definitely have you back maybe when we talk a little bit about the other side of stuff, when we're talking about Facebook advertising and that kind of thing. And then some of your other new roles that you're moving into in with us here at Leads Nearby. Maybe we'll have you on for some other topics as well.
That sounds fantastic. Looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Thanks, man. Have a good day.
All right. You too. Thanks.
All right. Thanks again for tuning in. As always, please feel free to leave some comments below to let us know if you have any questions. Also, if you're in need of any contractor marketing services, please feel free to reach out to us either through our website or just by giving us a call. We love helping contractors grow their service business any way we can. Until next time, take care.